Hi Tom, welcome. Oops. Sorry, I'm just adjusting all the settings on here. There's I've oh God knows what I've done. I've set something here and I've got a load of things on the screen that aren't making any sense to me. This is YouTube live streaming at its best. There we go. Got it. I pressed the wrong button. Yeah, knowing that this video is going to be a live video, both live now and people watching it later, you probably think, what on earth is he doing, moving the camera around and doing all these things? Well, I've just been doing some testing. I've just been doing some filming for a video that I hadn't planned to do actually until yesterday. And basically what happened was we went out for a drive and went to a funeral actually. It was not a very good day. But the journey was 105 miles down to Essex and 105 miles back, and along the way I was starting to realise and question what was happening to the GOM and the indicated range. So if you've been following me on Facebook, you'll have seen that I've been doing some tests and asking people what efficiency do you think we're going to get in these various conditions. And we did 210 miles yesterday. Susan did another 43 miles this morning. And that left the car with not a lot left. It left us with 13% on the battery, but I decided to go out again. So it's 3 journeys and running it quite low. And that's what I've been making the video on that experience of how the range and the guessometer has been changing in those times and circumstances. And today I came out specifically to test that, to put my foot down, turn the heater on full, and to see how quickly the range would reduce. And then to drive economically and see how it would stabilise. For me, to try and gain some confidence about how the range indicated and how truthful and accurate it really is. That was the aim of it. So there should be a video coming on that soon. I don't want to duplicate too much and say too much about that. So anyway, I've arrived at the charger to recharge the car. So I thought while I'm here, it does say I'm going to be here for up to an hour. So I thought I would go live and see if anyone had any questions. And unbelievably, I've only been on 3 minutes and 18 of you are watching. So hello everyone, whoever you are. Yeah, send us a message so I can see who you are. I can't see who's actually watching out of this. So I can't see out of the 19 people watching who you are. The GOM on your soul is incredibly pessimistic. I'm assuming yours is the same. Do you know, actually I'm not finding it pessimistic. I'm finding it quite accurately. Do you suffer from flat battery anxiety? Dan, no. Surprisingly, no. So we filled up yesterday and it said 286 miles to go and we did 210. Well, 77 miles is a huge number of miles, so no range anxiety about that whatsoever. Sending Susan out this morning with 43 miles to do, with 77 showing on the screen in different conditions. Yeah, that was will she be all right, won't she be all right, because I don't know and trust the car yet. I'm still learning it. But lo and behold, she came back with more miles than I was anticipating, so I was able to go out again for a 3rd time, and no range anxiety. I have just experienced the low battery warning because I have been driving it quite spirited to try and work out what's going on. So yeah, I have just had the low battery warning, and hence I slowed down, turned the heater off, and made sure I got back to the charger. But is that range anxiety? No, it's me experiencing something new. Going down to yeah, low battery warning. I still had 18 miles to go, and 18 miles is a long way. I could have driven all the way home still. So it's all about trust. In my diesel cars before, I never really trusted going below 60 miles of range because I didn't want to suck up dirt into the filters. I don't know where I'd learnt that from, but I don't like to suck the diesel off the bottom of the tank and get dirt in the filters and clog up your injectors, those sort of things. So I never used to like to go below 50 miles in a diesel car. So now me coming to 18 miles of range and still feeling comfortable, I think it shows you that there's more confidence in an electric car. So no flat battery anxiety, nothing whatsoever. Sorry, I missed who that was. Fuel light bingo is never in a nice car. No, no, it's not. It's just totally different. I thought moving to an electric car, you would have that same sort of anxiety because I was overcautious. So if I'm overcautious in a diesel car, thinking that, I used to fill up when it got to like 100-mile range to go, because that was still not a lot of fuel in. It was only a couple of gallons in there, somewhere between 8-9 litres. So I was worried that I would feel that anxiety because 100 miles in my diesel, which felt empty, is full in some electric cars. So that concept of change was daunting when I bought an electric car. But now, absolutely not. Not daunting whatsoever. I'm becoming more and more confident with the car, more and more confident that the range indicated on the guessometer is accurate. But I do think you have to take more data into account. I mean, when you're driving a petrol or diesel car, you don't have to think, what efficiency did I get in the last 100 miles? And have the conditions changed now? Am I going to need the heater on, and will that make an effect? And where am I going to charge, and therefore have I got enough range to get there? You don't really, you don't think of anything like that in a petrol or diesel car. So it is very, very different. But the reality is, I don't charge very often unless I choose to. I've only once still in 6 months had to charge, and I mean have to charge, because I'd driven outside of the range and I wasn't anywhere near home, so I had to. All the other charges have been by choice, and I've chosen today to come out and charge here at this charger. One, because it's free, but two, because we had low range on the car, so I could do some tests. So everything's by choice, and when you're doing things by choice, you're not feeling anxious anyway. Hi, Tony. Tony from London. Would you have an EV if you could not charge at home? If I couldn't charge at home, I think that's a comfort thing again. For me personally, no, because I like lots and lots of contingencies. So the reason why I bought the electric car is because I believed I could buy it and drive it and never charge on a public charger. I had sufficient contingency with the range and being able to charge at home that I would never have to charge on a public charger. So I was completely the opposite than considering buying an EV without a charger at home. But now that I've got used to charging out and what the chargers are like, yeah, I think it's plausible, yes, to have a car and do that. But you've just got to have a different mentality and a different mindset about how you charge. It's very much a change in mindset. Yes, I like the planning. Yeah, a lot of people do like the planning, but also a lot of people don't, Tom. My wife, for example, she's not interested in planning whatsoever. Just get in it and drive it. And that worries me slightly, that one day she'll get in and drive it and I've forgotten to charge it for her. She still hasn't. Susan still hasn't charged the car. I've got her to pop out of the car while I'm there and to initiate a charge, but she's never like come out on her own to this sort of charger, gone onto Pod Point, activated one, and done it on her own. So she's still got that to do. Considering a FEV, Dan, just because not sure about the amount of charging points available at the moment. Oh, well, if you're already thinking and saying that, Dan, then you're already apprehensive. And my thought on hybrids and plug-in hybrids especially is people that have them drive them just in electric mode. And if all they can do is 10, 20, 30 miles, and even if the manufacturer says they can do 30, only plan on getting 20, 25, then why buy the plug-in hybrid in the first place? Why buy something with a petrol engine when you drive it, you're going to try your hardest not to have the engine running? It makes no sense to me. You've got to pay all the servicing costs, you've got all the emissions, you've paid for this engine, and what you're actually using is a tiny battery. And all you'll end up doing is driving 10, 20 miles, charging up, drive 10, 20 miles and charging up. And I guess if that's your average journey, that you're doing 10, 20, 25 miles, and you can do that and recharge every journey, and you've got the engine and petrol as a contingency should you need it for longer, I guess it makes some sense. But to me, I don't like halfway houses. I like one thing or the other. If you're apprehensive, then I suppose have the petrol engine. But if you're buying a plug-in hybrid because you want electric, well, you really just want electric. If you're buying it because you want efficiency, then, well, why aren't you buying diesel? Is it because of emissions, or is it because of the bad depreciation potentially that's coming on diesel cars? What are the reasons for doing it? I find the plug-in hybrid is the compromise for people that aren't prepared to go electric because they're a little apprehensive of it. But what you'll find is when you've got this plug-in hybrid, you'll actually wish that you'd have bought the full electric. So my advice to anyone considering and thinking about a plug-in hybrid because they don't feel quite ready is no, don't do it. Do what I've done, jump straight to an electric and try to get the best range you possibly can. Don't run it too tight, get as long a range one as you can, and then it'll be much more comfortable. Charging out and about, you're not going to get much worse than Lincolnshire and Norfolk. There are chargers here in Norwich, there's several, and that's not too bad, but there are lots and lots of places where within 20-30 miles there's not a charger in sight. So yeah, running around in an EV that only does 40-50 miles, that must be a challenge to some people. But if you're considering buying a new longer range EV, it's not a problem at all. So no, plug-in hybrid, I wouldn't do it. I guess it's tempting to get something like a Golf GTE where the performance is good on it, but no, I've converted. I honestly believe if you get a plug-in hybrid, you will regret it and you'll want the full electric. Good point, not sure what that was on. Would love a Tesla Model 3, but too damn expensive here in Spain, 56,000 euros. Yeah, the new standard one coming out, that does sound interesting, doesn't it? $35,000. Add a couple of $1,000 if you want the standard plus. That sounds interesting. If that was available here in the UK, I think they'd be inundated with orders. Even if you had to add 20% to that, that would take the price just above the 40,000 tax threshold. I still think they would sell shed loads of them if they could release those here in the UK, because this Kona that I'm sat in is a Hyundai. It's a crossover SUV. It's not startling looking. It's lovely and comfortable. It's got all the right tech, but it's not a Tesla. It hasn't got that kudos. It hasn't got that badge appeal. So I could imagine them selling shed loads at 40, 42, 43,000 pounds, and it's not going to be 35,000 pounds. Yeah, could it really? Could they really, even with taxation, get the price down into the 30,000s so you can buy a 220-mile Tesla Model 3? I mean, I would love that to be the case because it would transform pricing and bring the price of EVs down. But when the Model 3 gets here in the UK, I think it is going to be still an expensive 40,000 plus car. I would love one. I don't like the idea of the boot. I prefer a hatch, and when you see some of the videos about the boot going up and rain dropping on into the boot with all your luggage, that doesn't appeal to me. But and I don't think Susan would actually like the Model 3 because it's all based on the computer screen. There's no proper switches and levers, etc. So not quite sure whether the Model 3, even though I aspire to one perhaps, I'm not sure whether that would actually suit us. Are you going on one of the electric EV power supply deals at home? BMW is limited to the miles to have to charge every night. No, I'm not. I'm not going on one of these EV deals because they're not really EV deals. They're basically saying if you've got an EV, you go onto the deal and they'll give you some discount, which is the equivalent of some miles. So it's just an introductory offer to people with EVs. I don't see any of these schemes as true EV schemes. They're basically either out of hours eco rates, so you're getting cheaper rates overnight, so you charge overnight, or they're flexible like the Octopus deal here in the UK where you've got different pricing every half an hour and it's encouraging you to use your electricity at the times of day where it's cheaper. That doesn't actually suit me in the way I live my life and I use electricity, in that I don't use any electricity hardly overnight. I have solar now on the house as well, so I'm more likely to want to use my car and charging during the day, and most of our electricity is used during the day. So economy 7 rates and these flexible rates, they don't really suit me because I don't have that commute every day where I charge overnight and then I'm driving the next day. I don't know what I'm doing from one day to the next. I didn't plan to come out and do this trip now today, yet I have. So if I wanted to charge, then it wouldn't have been any good, and if I decided not to go out, then I wouldn't have wanted the car charged overnight either. I'd want to have waited for the sun. So Economy 7's not as flexible because it's encouraging you to charge at a specific time when they want you to charge, when the energy companies want you to charge. I need more flexibility. So for the price difference, because I'm a low electricity user, for me, it's better to be on a standard rate, not an economy 7 rate at all, and not one of these EV deals. I mean, I could be wrong, but my guess is the ones that are labeling as EV is just trying to attract you and just offering you a discount. It's no different to someone saying, here's a £50 discount for joining us. So Bulb, who I'm with Bulb on a standard rate. Maybe they are doing EV rates by giving me a £50 introductory deal. They're certainly green, it's renewable energy that they're using, so I'm very, very happy with them. If you want to join Bulb in the UK, my referral code is in the description of all my videos. You're welcome to use that. £50 discount to you, £50 to me. And that's why I went with Bulb, because £50 off is effectively 10% reduction in cost of energy. So all I need is one referral, and that's 20% off. So I like the idea of Bulb. It's just the one for me that seems not necessarily the absolute cheapest, but they're pretty cheap, and they're going to go up and down in price as the market changes. And I've actually had a price reduction since I've had them for the last 2 or 3 months. So I think they're quite honest. So anyway, Bulb, I'm not going to say too much more about them, and no Economy 7. New Volkswagen lineup coming of EVs will compete over Tesla, Dan. Yeah, the Volkswagens are sounding exciting, aren't they? Because the news is continuous. One moment it's the MEB platform and the new Golf replacement, the ID or the Neo. But now we're seeing pictures of the new Seat L-Born, I think it was called, and that looks really nice. And then there's all these Audis coming out, and they're all based on the same sort of platform. It's just another car and another car and another car. And yeah, they're all future ones. None of them are available to buy now. So clever marketing from Volkswagen, making us anticipate all these cars coming. But I'd like to actually see them in the showrooms. I'd like to see them making them in thousands and tens of thousands and getting them to all the countries. Because the big problem with the EVs is the wait. You've got to wait for a Nero. If you order one now, you've got to wait over a year perhaps. Kona, you've got to go onto a waiting list. A Model 3, we don't know when it's coming. It seems to be no one is making them in sufficient... Oh, excuse me. No one's making them in sufficient volumes yet to make it just a commodity item you go and buy, like a Ford Focus or a Ford Fiesta. And when we get to that point, yeah, I'll be very, very happy. Volkswagen... do you know, Model 3 or Volkswagen could be my next car at the moment, whether it be Skoda, Seat or Volkswagen, I don't know. I do like the look of the shape. I do like the idea of having more efficiency. So if the drag coefficient on these Volkswagens is better than this Kona, that could be my next car. So I am keeping a close eye on the Volkswagen brands. The Audis, they don't interest me at all. They too expensive, and they look so boxy. I don't like the look of them at all. You're on OVO tariff, Tom. It's not cheap. Well, see, this is it. If you get it slightly wrong, it can be more expensive than you think. I would hate the idea of going onto a tariff and then wanting to charge a car, but knowing you're going to be paying 20, 30, 40 pence a kilowatt hour because it's the wrong time. And of course, you shouldn't be doing it anyway, should you? Because it's at peak times on the grid and it's not very good. But when you need to, you need to. So, yeah, being restricted and paying a high price for energy at bad times on the grid, I don't like the idea of that. Some of them sound cheap because they offer you like 5p overnight for 4 hours. But if they're charging you 40 pence at a time that you're still going to be cooking your tea and having the oven on, then it's not really 5 pence because it's been offset and increased at another point in time. Your net cost could even be higher, even though you're paying 5p a kilowatt hour overnight. I guess it depends how much electricity you use. Another Soul, Tom. Yeah, the new one. If it's got 260-mile range, yeah, it's a quirky shape. If you like the shape, it's brilliant. It's certainly practical. And the range is going to be excellent, isn't it? I mean, all these Hyundai, all these Korean cars, all having similar range of 260, 270, 280 miles. It is incredible. And to think that WLTP is, I think, conservative. I know everyone's sort of saying it's real world. Well, not in my real world. My real world, I drive a bit more economically than many. I'm not commuting. I'm not driving up and down motorways a lot. So I'm actually getting better range now in February than the WLTP range for this car, which I think is 276, and I'm getting an indicated range of 285 to 290. So even in February, yeah, okay, is nice. Let's flip the screen around. Now, like today, it's not too bad out here. It's 8 degrees outside, but it's quite nice. It's not normally like this in February. It was beast from the east, wasn't it, last year? So -10, and everyone snowed in. But yeah, if I can exceed the range of WLTP here in February, imagine what it's going to be like in June, July, and August. I'm going to be getting way over 300 miles. And yeah, I still haven't done it. I still haven't done a 300-mile range test, and that's what I want to do. I do want to do a video setting off and driving in one continuous go and see what range I can get from the car. The problem with that is I've got to be driving for a lot of hours, a lot of hours, because if I do it in Norfolk, I can't get a high average speed. That's good for getting a higher range, I guess, but it's going to be a long, long day to do it. Yeah, you're brave, Tom, if you're driving one of the earlier Souls with lesser range. There must be more range anxiety and more planning that goes on. A lot more than me. Hi, David. I think the manufacturers are afraid of getting ahead of demand being burned. Yeah, I mean, they are businesses, aren't they? I mean, I see a lot of news and a lot of people talking about what the manufacturers are doing and why aren't Hyundai producing more of these cars and all this sort of thing. But they're all businesses, and if you think about how they're running their business, then what are they doing? They know something transformational is happening in the market. They know that something huge is happening to the transport industry, and for them to survive and to make money from it and to progress, because with shareholders and dividends to pay, they have to keep going. They've got a plan for not just one instance, but multiple. So they've got a plan for what if the market says we want hybrids, so they have to produce hybrids. And of course, they like producing petrol engines because they've got contracts for it, so hybrids suit. But everyone wants to go electric. There seems to be a huge drive now for electrification, for pure electric cars, and you can see that because Formula One are talking about electric. You know, we've got Formula E already. These things are happening and they're in mainstream discussions. Everyone knows electric's coming. But what if electric's not the way? What if hydrogen is? So these companies have got to hedge their bets, and they've got to go and research and produce technology that can take advantage of hydrogen fuel cells, even if the market doesn't go that way. Some manufacturers like Toyota and Hyundai seem to talk as if that is the future. But I'm not so convinced. I think they're just hedging their bets with this technology, because how can hydrogen be the future when I don't think I can go out today and buy a hydrogen car here in Norfolk? I don't think there are any. I don't think I could even order one. Could I really go and buy a Nexo? I still think it's a poster car. There are no hydrogen refueling stations anywhere near this part of the country, so it's completely impractical for me to buy one. So how can that be the future if it's so impossible right now? It's so many years away. Maybe it is, 10, 20 years, 30 years or more. Maybe hydrogen is the way forward. But we've got a huge number of decades, I believe, at least, where electric cars are the future. And manufacturers have got to sort that out. They've got to make profit. So their timing of when to retrain, when to change their factory lines, because they're going to have to open new factories or change the lines completely, and they probably don't have the resources to keep making the petrol cars that are still in demand right now and the volume of electric cars that we need right now. So they've got logistical problems as to how to do both. Tesla can do it because they've got no legacy of petrol cars or diesel cars. The other manufacturers are struggling. Volkswagen seem to have got on board, in my opinion, and because they're so wealthy and they've got so much money, they're opening new plants to build the cars in the volumes that are required. How that affects their workforce, I don't know, because basically you're talking about employing new people in a new factory, maybe even in a new country, and that employment will keep growing as they sell more electric cars. But on the other side, there's another factory still making diesels that's going to be declining, so maybe those jobs are at risk. So anyway, yeah, I do fear for the companies because it's down to management, and we look at them as a company and you think of them as this big intuitive professional company, but it's just full of people, and all it takes is a few people at the top that haven't quite got things right, And if they sell the message down into their company's management teams on their instructions and they're not quite right, and their strategists haven't got it right, then they could lose out, couldn't they? They could end up with a stockpile of petrol and diesel cars they can't sell. They could end up perhaps like Ford without an MEB platform of their own, that they have to go out and pay somebody else to utilise theirs because they haven't done it right themselves. So yeah, it's interesting to see which companies are smart enough and have the better management in place to actually have a strategy that works for them. And unfortunately, they can't turn a switch, can they? They can't transform their business instantly. It takes years. And I think one of the ones to watch is probably a more agile company, and that's Jaguar Land Rover. I'm enjoying watching the news just in the last year, from hearing how they might be struggling one moment, and then how there's a chance that they'll go completely electric, and now how they're releasing new models. And we've seen the success of the I-Pace winning awards. Is it the Car of the Year in Europe? I'm not sure what award it's just won, but a very prestigious one. So yeah, Jaguar Land Rover seem to be doing things. Ooh, data disabled. So I'm not sure whether you're seeing this still. I just got a message. I might have gone over my limit on data, but I've re-enabled it anyway. Hopefully that's okay, and I'm not suddenly being charged lots of money. So anyway, yeah, companies, I do think they are struggling, and I do fear for them. I think we'll see some companies go under because they don't get their strategies just right. Hyundai and Kia, well, they've said it at the beginning. If you listen to their messages right at the beginning, the Kona and the Ioniq and the Nexo, these are poster cars. They did say that they're doing this to improve their brand image around the new technology. At no time have they said, like Volkswagen, they're going to be producing mass volume of these cars. So they're not quite ready for it. So they're producing technology to show that they can do it and build an image. And in the background, they're transforming their company and their production lines to have the ability and learning from the process of releasing these cars to transform their business into an electric car business. And I think that's smart and clever. The only thing I don't think is smart and clever is how they hide information from the customers. If only they were more open, we could actually trust them. There's nothing worse than having high hopes and to interpret messages from their marketing and PR teams and think that we've got volume increases of these cars coming and trust and have faith in them, only to find that they don't follow through and then go back to their statements and say, well, actually, we didn't say this. So I think the communication from these Korean companies isn't as good as it could be. I would like a more open and transparent knowledge, like we have with Tesla, of what their plan is and when they're going to launch cars and what's coming. Tesla are just doing it right, and other car manufacturers need to learn from that. You don't have to hide your technology. You don't have to hide your plans. You just need to make bold commitments and follow through on them. And that's what they're not doing, isn't it? Tesla's doing it. Other car manufacturers are telling us a little bit, but perhaps keeping it all secret in case it goes wrong, in case they can't quite do what they want to do. That's my opinion anyway. What else have we got? David. We've got another David. David Tapping and David Pern. Sorry, just looking at the messages here, see if I can find them. You were looking at the Kia Niro, but when the release price was much higher than the price they said it in the release in the markets. Yeah, the Niro is an interesting one. I seriously thought about selling this Kona and going for a Niro, but I quickly changed my mind. It is a slightly lesser car in quality in my mind to the Kona, and the fact that they released it with a higher price value point, in my opinion, I don't think that was very good. So you get less kit for your money, and yes, the price is lower than the Kona, but you don't get as much kit, so I don't think the value is there for it. If you need and want a bigger car, it's the right car for you, I guess, that you just buy a bigger car, because it is the only bigger crossover SUV you can get with this sort of long-range battery. So if that's the important thing, it's worth it. Driving pleasure, no, I don't think it's going to be as good as the Kona, so it wasn't for me. So if the value wasn't right and the driving experience wasn't right for me, the Nero's not the right car for me. Although I still hope to get a test drive in one and be proven wrong. I do keep an open mind until I've actually done a test drive, and it would be great to compare to see how exactly the Nero electric is compared to this Kona electric. Problem with the Nero, again, if you haven't got one of the first ones that's coming over, just like with Hyundai, you'll probably find you've got to wait a hell of a long time to actually get one, if you didn't get one that's first coming off the boat. Fixed route transport companies. Sorry, David, what did you say there? Can lead with their own hydrogen refueling infrastructure. Yeah, I mean, hydrogen can work, but again, I understand that it takes a lot of electricity to produce the hydrogen. So the hydrogen's got to be produced in a place where the energy can be obtained cheaply and sustainably. So like it is in Orkney at the top of Scotland. Hi, John. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Yeah, do you know, I really believe that is. I would almost like to sort of open a book and say, which company do you think is going to fail? I sort of guessed a year ago it might be Ford. I wasn't seeing enough from them. But if they've now got the right contracts in place with Volkswagen, they could be all right. The one I would say that I'm most fearful for here in the UK would be Nissan. And the reason for that is, one, if they're closing factories here in the UK, and they're talking about that already with redundancies and stuff, there's some issues in the company. And if you go back to when the recession started back in 2000 and what was it, 2008, 2009, we had the financial crisis and the recession. So I remember around that time and before, Nissan were one of the companies that had gone to the government cap in hand saying, well, we can't afford to keep going. We need you to reintroduce the scrappage scheme and we need help so we can keep selling cars. So if they were that close to the breadline, shall we say, those years ago, and if they don't quite get electrification right and haven't got the money to reinvest, then yeah, I would put that sort of company at risk, and they could be a real big surprise. Same for Toyota. Toyota, could they be a problem? No. What about Honda? Honda in the UK, I think they had problems, didn't they, in the recession? So maybe Honda could have some issues if they don't hurry up and sort themselves out. But I think if you add lots of things together, Nissan, with the Renault relationship and the problems they've had of late, they actually could struggle. And I hope they don't. I hope they survive. But I do suspect a major manufacturer will be falling at some point. Guten Tag, Ian. What country are you from, Ian? You do have to add 20% VAT onto the price. Yeah, you do, but we don't know what the importers are going to import them for price-wise. The Model 3 coming to the UK will be whatever price it gets imported at, plus VAT. So we don't know what the import price will be with the VAT. We can't just presume it's $35,000 converted. There might be a deal because the spec is different. And that's what we find with Hyundai, isn't it? That the UK importers import a specific specification and they have an agreed price for that. So we don't know what the price is going to be. It's going to be high 30s to 40s, and we don't know exactly. We can just guess, can't we? You're going to lease an Ioniq hybrid, Ian. Oh, Ioniq hybrid. There's one sat next to me. I think that is just the hybrid, not... No, that's obviously got to be a plug-in because he's plugged it in, hasn't it? There's me, silly me. Of course, it's a plug-in one. I don't like the wheels on that. I don't know if you can see that. The Ioniq really looks a bit like a bit of a rep car at times, and the wheels, the aero wheels, really don't help it. It's just crying out just for a little bit of sportiness with a different set of wheels. That's my opinion anyway, but I love the Ioniq. It's one of the few cars, it's probably the only one I would consider. If I wanted to go for a lesser battery, cheaper electric car, I honestly think the Ioniq's the one I would get, even with 28 kilowatt hours. The range of 120 to 150 miles, that's what I would want to go for. Hybrid, nah, I didn't like the hybrid when I tested it, the plug-in hybrid. The engine and the transition between electric and the engine just wasn't right for me. Oh, sorry about that. A message coming through from Susan. You've placed an order for Aaron. You've placed an order for the Kona Electric Premium SE just a few weeks before they closed the order books. Oh, well done, mate. Well done for getting in. I hope they still keep going with that. So keep an eye on them, keep chasing them, and I hope you get it. All those people that ordered early and got the cheaper price, they are so happy. It seems to be the way that sooner you order, sooner you get in, you get the right deals. And it's the same with the Nero. It's the same. We're probably going to be coming up with the Soul. If you hang around and wait for a demonstrator, you could miss out. So it does seem to be have confidence, choose the car you want, and get in there and order it, because other people that sat waiting around won't get them. Do I ever get a flat tyre anxiety without a proper spare? The truth with that, sorry, who was that from? REM. REM. Yes, because it's actually happened to me. My last Ford Fiesta that I had didn't have a spare wheel. It had one of these tyre inflator kits. And I got a bloomin' screw through the tyre when I was 100 miles from home. This is when I was dating Susan, actually. I got the screw through the tyre and tried the tyre inflator kit, and of course it was a chocolate teapot. It was absolutely useless. It just spewed this stuff out of the hole in the tyre where the screw was. So it's absolutely useless, and I would now never try and repair a tyre and drive it after putting this tyre weld stuff in. Does it give me anxiety? No, because I've got 2 sets of recovery, haven't I? I've got one with Hyundai. Hyundai comes with recovery services on the car, and also I've got that through my insurance as well, so I'm very, very well covered. I know if you've got the cheaper level of AA, they don't cover you for things like tyres. What they'll end up doing is just doing what I did. You make a phone call to a mobile tyre company, and they turn up to you and fit a tyre and charge you a fortune for it. I paid £175. That's well over €200 for a new tyre for a Ford Fiesta. And that's the price you pay for not having a spare in your car. So do I have anxiety? No. No, I don't. Especially with tyre pressure monitoring, you can keep a good eye on it. It doesn't worry me, but it is an inconvenience to you if it happens, I guess. I'd rather have a spare tyre. I would rather have a spare wheel, but there's nowhere to put it. John, any details on your rate of... Oh, why can't I see that? Rate of charge. Yeah, we're... There we go. Let's turn this around. 47 kilowatts at the moment. I arrived here with 7% and 18 miles on the GOM, and it kicked off on the charger at about 19 kilowatts, ramped up to 37, I think, and then stayed there for a little while and has gradually kept increasing. So very good charge rates at the moment. 47 kilowatts. I've got another 10% before it slows down, I think. The reason why we're getting such good rates is because I ran it very low. So starting from low, you're always likely to get better rates. I guess that's because you're starting with lower voltages, and the BMS isn't going to throttle you back, because at lower voltages you're less likely to damage the battery. And also Susan had driven 43 miles this morning, and I drove another 10 to get here. So even in cold conditions with 50 miles driving and very low percentage starting point, I was always going to get the best charge rates possible. I think it said if you're interested, an hour and... What did it say? An hour and 9 minutes, I think, is what it initially said, for charging from 7% to 80%, which is, it's about right. It's a lot of kilowatt hours going in, so it's about right. It now says an hour and 12 minutes to 100%, which, again, it's going to slow down and go really slow. But yeah, an hour. I've always said with all my charging that I've done so far with the car, charging to 80%, allow an hour. It doesn't really matter where you start from, allow an hour and you're okay. There is no quick top-up, it seems, with this car, unless you're at like 10, 20, 30, 40%, you're quite low in the range and you just need a shorter top-up to get back home again. That would work, but there's no quick top-ups at 50, 60, 70, 80%. You've got to just do small top-ups at the lower end. But not too bad today. The miles are really racking up on the car. 6,300 now. I could have sworn it was only 5,000 the other week. Sorry, just turning the climate back on. Starting to mist up a little bit in here. 34 people watching. What are you all doing right now? sat on Facebook watching me. Hopefully you're not trying to work. Hopefully you are at home and not supposed to be working. Hi Paul. Good luck in getting any vehicle powered by LG Chem batteries. They can't make enough. I don't agree necessarily. It's not to do with how many they can make. It's to do with how many were ordered by the company in the first place, because it's down to contracts. If they didn't order enough, you can't suddenly put another order in and ask for some more, because other companies have gone in and ordered them instead. So I don't think it's about how many they make. It's about how many you planned to buy. So I think these companies that are saying they can't produce demand because of all sorts of other reasons, it's because they didn't plan to. They didn't plan to build as many, so they didn't put a contract in place. If they did, then they'd be suing the companies for breach of contract. My opinion, anyway, just my opinion. Thermal battery management, keep the battery temperature under control. Backwoods bungalow, that was. So very, very good point. I suppose I'm a little bit of a skeptic about that, because my experience shows that the thermal management on the Kona is very, very effective at cooling the battery. So in summer and right now, I don't know if you can hear that. We do have a fan on at the moment. I really hope you can hear that. So the fan's on, cooling the battery, because we are at 47 kilowatts charging rate and at 66%, so it's trying hard to manage it to its optimal level. The Kona and the Korean cars that they're building are brilliant at cooling the batteries because they have liquid thermal management, so they're pumping coolant and distributing it, and it works really well. Where it doesn't work well is heating, because we think and have been led to believe that it has heating elements built into the system, or part of the heat pump system, to use that coolant and heat the battery to optimize charging. Well, it doesn't do that. It does in severe winter conditions of -10 and below with winter mode on the car, then it does. So people in Canada, Norway and extreme conditions, they may experience the battery being heated to help them drive efficiently without damaging the battery, and also to help them charge. But here in countries like the UK, where it's at -1, -2, something like that, and you expect the battery heater to come on to raise the temperature and help you charge at a better rate, it doesn't do it. It does not do that at all. So there is no battery heating. This car, for me in the UK, might as well not have a battery heater, because I'm never going to see it being used. It cools the battery and manages it really well for multiple rapid charging, and for charging right now, it's doing it really well. But if you leave home in -2 conditions and haven't driven the car and want to go and charge, you're going to get slow charge rates. Now, whether that's cold gate, as Bjorn Nyland has described, or whether that's the issues that I have described, where the BMS, the battery management system, is throttling the charge on the car, and it's doing it more than you would think because there is no battery heater. So I'm not sure what the reasons for that are, but yeah, thermal management on the Korean cars is brilliant for cooling, not for heating, because it doesn't do what we think it will do. They never said it would, so I guess we've made that bit up ourselves. Because they say it has a heating and cooling battery thermal management system, we presume it's going to use it in all sorts of situations. No, we presumed wrong. Hyundai only uses it in extreme conditions of -10 and below, not all the time. I hope that answers your question. Climate control, does it work quickly? Yeah, it does. It's a little bit temperamental sometimes, because it switches between the PTC heaters and the heat pump. So sometimes you can turn the heater on, and for a couple of minutes you want some heat out of it, but you're not. You're getting cold air, and it's not as reactive, and it doesn't deliver the heat all the time when you want it. But most of the trips I go on, where you're out in the cold, you're starting off first thing, you turn the heat up, and then you set off on a journey. Heat's brilliant. It heats up nice and quickly. You can defrost your car in a minute, 2 minutes, and it's extremely warm. So it's a great heating system, and it does seem really efficient. It switches over quite quickly from the PTC heaters to the heat pump, and you can see that on the information screen. If I I can't show you that because the car's not running and it doesn't let me show you that information while it's running, but you can basically go into the detailed level of battery information and it shows you how many kilowatts are being used for the heating and climate system. So that's really good. I hope that helps, Aaron. Just checking for messages again. What's that? Backwards one. The leaf battery temperatures go even higher in winter. I guess the car has to work harder. So if the car works harder and the battery's working harder, it should get hotter. So yeah, I guess it does. It's all of the mystery about batteries and the temperatures and the charging rates mystifies me slightly, because we keep seeing announcements of 175 kilowatt chargers and 250 kilowatt chargers, 350 kilowatt chargers, and I know Tesla are now talking about megawatt chargers. Well, how can you charge a battery at those rates and not damage it if Hyundai can't charge a 64 kilowatt battery at more than 22 kilowatts from 50%? It's in cold conditions, that is. So if some car manufacturers with supposedly the latest battery technology, if we're struggling to protect the battery in different temperatures, then having these huge charge rates on other chargers is wonderful. But I guess you only get those good charge rates in warm conditions when the battery's at low states of charge. So I guess you get little bursts of that high rate and then it has to throttle it down to protect the battery. So it's the big challenge is, I guess, how to accept higher charge rates without damaging the battery. That's the challenge for battery manufacturers. We need to see better technologies that protect the battery better, and then the battery management system on the cars won't have to work so hard for us. Hi Martin, a name I recognise. Sorry, it keeps going off these messages, I can't see what you said. Are there still some free rapid chargers around on introductory periods? Yep, this pod point I have here at Little Norwich is free. It is the only free charger in Norwich, rapid, that I'm aware of, so there's only one left. And no one else has pulled in at all trying to use it, so we're still okay. There's a few smaller 7 kilowatt chargers that are free, but most are paid for now. The Swaco one that came up a little while ago over at Earlham near Norwich, that was free for about a month, and then it's chargeable, and all the Instavolts are obviously all chargeable now. Hi Glenn, you get back to work, mate. You're always on here, aren't you? Hub is on its way, actually. So is that it should be on its way, or is that it really has been posted? Yeah, they've told us a couple of times, haven't we, from My Energy, that the hub is about to be sent out, but it's so tantalisingly close. I've been desperate to even go for a drive up to Lincolnshire to see My Energy and pick it up rather than have it posted. I'd love to do that. 49 kilowatts. This is near the end. It's about to drop off now. If I flick the camera around. One of the things I've noticed with the Kona is when you're charging and you're around the 72-73%, right at the very end, just before it's going to throttle it back on the rates and give you only 30 something, it gives you that final boost. It gets to its highest point, and it looks like it's about to do it now. So I'll leave it pointing at the screen and see whether I'm right. But it's really pleasing to hear this fan going. I haven't heard any battery management for a long time because I haven't been charging at the right levels, at the right state of charges. No, I can't wait for the hub, Glenn, because I still pop out to the charger. I still pop out from inside the house to outside to where my Zappy charger is to see what rates I'm getting from the solar and see whether the car is charging, and it is bugging me no end. I do want to be able to see it from inside the house. Well, we're at 74%. Isn't that the point? Isn't that the percentage where it now drops off? So any moment we should see it. Hi Leo, can't order more Kona EVs in England, or is it wrong? No, I understand they have sold out their allocation. So again, as I was saying before, the manufacturers, the importers, have ordered so many this year for 2019, and they've already sold them all. So there's no point increasing the order book for a car that they haven't ordered anymore from the factory. So unless they can order them and know what spec they're ordering, well, this is interesting, 75%, and it's still at 48, 49 kilowatts. I thought it dropped down at 74. Oh, there we go. 1% out. So there you go. Just before it's about to throttle down, you do get the higher rates, right up to 48, 49 on a 50 kilowatt rapid charger. So sadly, charging at only 35 kilowatts now. 8 minutes to go until 80%, so it's going to drop down to 22, 23 in a little while as well. You're not surprised to hear that the Tesla Model 3 doesn't have a resistance heater, battery heater. It seems to rely on aircon. Yeah, again, Tesla seem to be more honest. So just because it doesn't have one doesn't mean that it actually needs one. It's only perhaps in certain climates. I would imagine if you're in severe winter conditions at -10, -20, -30 degrees, my understanding is that you can cause damage to the battery, and therefore in those situations they would need to protect it and have heaters. So it wouldn't surprise me if Tesla only put battery heaters in the countries that actually need them. It's one of the things I'm thinking about the Nissan Leaf, you know, the new one that's launched, the, what is it, the 3 Plus or the Leaf Plus 3.0, whatever it's called, and it doesn't have liquid thermal battery management. Well, maybe it doesn't need it, you know, maybe the fans that they got on it are adequate, because it's doing no different to this Kona. It's doing really good cooling, it's not doing any heating. So if it cools it sufficiently, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, maybe they just don't need it, and I think that's fine. Depends on the climates in the different countries. Have to bail out? Yeah, okay, John, me too. Actually, I'm getting very close to my 80%, so I'm going to be heading off soon. It's great to see you all. In fact, I will do that now. A couple more messages perhaps, though. I think it is. I think this battery technology is better suited to warmer climates, Glenn. I've definitely noticed that in this car, it seems to be the opposite to the Nissan Leaf. It seems to prefer the battery to be warmer, and it can cope with that temperature better by cooling it. I guess I don't know what it's going to be like in Las Vegas temperatures or Australian temperatures, and how well the thermal management works. But here in the UK, it works extremely well at cooling the battery, and therefore it would be even better, I think, in a warmer climate, because you're going to get better charging rates. Bye for now. Take care. Backwards Bungalow, thank you very much, and thank you all for watching. We're at 33 to 40 people been watching today. Thank you so much. You too, Glenn. Have a great weekend, and more soon. Hopefully I'll get this video that I've done, not this live one. I did one on the way, done a bit of filming. Hopefully I'll get that done today, tomorrow, the day after, and get that posted soon. So take care, everyone, and thanks for watching. Bye.